Hey guys, 4.3 Absolutism in Central Europe, or as I'm going to call it, the HOPPA, HOPPA, standing for 5 empires or countries that we're going to briefly talk about. This could be a quick podcast. As time has gone on, it seems like the AP exam and test makers are focusing on this material less and less, but we're going to talk about some countries at the very least and entities that we're going to hear from, as well as a couple of events that are going to be important. So really the big thing here is reasons for loss of power in 3 empires: the Holy Roman Empire, Ottoman Empire, and the Polish Empire, and then the connections between the fall of the Holy Roman Empire and the rise of 2 German states called Prussia and Austria. So let's roll. This is all review. We covered this in 4.1, the differences between Western and Eastern absolutism. Western absolutism, Spain and France, for the most part. In the West, the ruler is the government. I am the state. It would be as though Donald Trump was our government here in the United States of America. The nobility is totally controlled. They have very little influence politically. The middle class has more influence because of their loyalty to the monarch through managing government affairs and the government bureaucracies or government jobs. And in the West, you have large standing armies. So you have armies willing to put down any sort of challenge to the king. And divine right is a very common idea, where God has given the ruler the right to rule, and if you rebel against the ruler, you are in essence rebelling against God. Do not pass go. Problems coming your way. So Eastern absolutism, how's it different? The nobility, much stronger, and they're so strong that they have the leverage to give the monarch the right to rule the country, as long as the nobility have local control. So yes, your king is in Richmond, but your nobles in Waco, Kirksville, Clays Ferry, and the like have influence to be able to do whatever they want to do. And at the end of the day, they have to do what Richmond says, but at the end of the day, they also get a little bit more influence than the nobles in the West. And divine right is not as respected because the king is ruling because of the nobles' permission. So again, West versus East. So let's look at the HOP. 3 crumbling empires, starting with the Holy Roman Empire. This is review as well. Religious division enforced by the Treaty of Westphalia pushes the empire into chaos and pushes these German states to have many more individual powers. Take a drink of my special beverage. In any case, Austria and Prussia are going to be the 2 major powers to watch. The Holy Roman Emperor, still named, but has very, very little power and influence. And this is because Treaty of Westphalia, 1648, allowed German princes to be able to do whatever they wanted to do, basically. They gave them a lot of autonomous powers to run their state as they wish. Let's go to the Ottoman Empire. Listen, we have maintained throughout this class of the Ottoman Empire as a threat to Western Europe and therefore Western Christianity. And the glory days of the Ottoman Empire you could call were the 16th century, led by a man named Suleiman the Magnificent, otherwise known as Garlic Head. Excuse me, sorry. Anyway, Suleiman the Magnificent, ruling for 46 years in the mid-16th century. One of the things the Ottoman Empire would do in order to basically, once they conquered a place, is that they would capture the children. They'd take children that were in that location and take them back to their power centers to convert them to Islam and then train them to become loyal officers, government officials, soldiers, whatever. So it's basically you target the kids, right? You get the kids on your side, and then basically you win them over to your cause. Very much a Nazi Germany thing, and you see it in a lot of totalitarian areas. So these Christian slaves and converts are known as the Janissary Corps, and they would become very loyal to the Ottoman Empire's cause. Now, one thing that's going to hurt the Ottoman Empire in terms of its ability to strengthen itself is that when it does conquer territories, they allow those areas to keep their religious identities. So say when they conquer Greece or when they conquer Southeast Europe and what we're going to call the Balkans, they're not going to impose Islam on those areas. They're going to let them stay Christian if they like. They're just going to take their tax dollars, right? So maybe, if you force someone to change totally, it's going to be hard maybe to convert them to where they won't try to rebel. But if you let them kind of do their own thing, then maybe they'll pacify them enough they won't try to rebel all the time. Problem is, it's going to be hard to really consolidate your power when you have all these little national identities. And in 1683, the Ottoman Empire is at its height. And as they advance on Europe, they come to what is Vienna, which is current-day Austria, lay siege to the city but cannot defeat the Austrians. And after that, in Austria, you can look at the map, it's Central Europe. But after Austria, after Vienna, the Ottoman Empire starts to recede. It starts to pull backwards a little bit. So that battle marked the end of Ottoman expansion. Still a threat, but certainly not going to be as pressing a threat going forward after 1683. Yeah, and that too. So Austria and Russia become more powerful, and it's going to lead to the Ottomans losing lands. And we'll pick our story up with the Ottoman Empire again later down the road. Now let's talk about Poland. I love that picture. Nature is so cool. I love nature. I was driving the other day and I thought a buzzard was attacking my car. It was very scary. Is my car dead? Am I really dead inside? It's this vulture coming after me. So Poland's got this thing in their government. First of all, in Poland was a larger area than what we consider it today. They extended into what we call Belarus, Ukraine, the Baltic states, like Lithuania. It was a very large area. But inside of Poland, in their government, they had a king and a parliament-type legislative branch. But they have this thing called liberum veto, which means that everyone in their Congress or Parliament diet, I'm not sure what they call it, every vote had to be unanimous for something to get done. Now, think about that, right? I mean, I got 3 people in my family, and Piper, 4 people in my family. We can't agree on anything. You and your parents and siblings, I mean, you go out to eat somewhere, no one comes to a unanimous decision. You always have to punch it in somebody's face to get to go where you're going to go. But in Poland, they had to basically all agree to pass a law. That's going to slow down the process. It's also going to allow maybe some sabotage and maybe a noble who's voting to be blackmailed to slow down the movement. So all of this legislative non-action leads to squabbles between the monarchy and nobility. And because of that, Poland is going to eventually wither away and die by the year 1800, thanks in part to Russia, Austria, and Prussia expanding into stronger states. Poland does not have the flexibility inside of their government. They do not have the cooperation between monarchy and nobility to be able to take on these outside threats. And everybody comes in just like the picture of little old Poland, and here comes Austria and Prussia ready to kick some butt and claw their eyes out. Sorry, Poland. Sucks to be you, which is a good motto in European history. It, in many cases, does suck to be Poland. But anyway, let's talk about Pennsylvania. Not really. Let's talk about the PA, the rise of Prussia and Austria, 2 countries that we're going to be talking about in depth until the start of World War I. So that for us is going to be around March. So it's going to be 2 countries we haven't really talked about yet, but they're going to be a rise in importance to where they are France, they are in England, they are Spain. And eventually they are Russia. So we'll see them be very important. Let's talk about Prussia. What is Prussia? It's not Russia with a P. It is a German state that is starting to grow in significance once Westphalia gives these states the power to run their own show. And Prussia originally was here, but then allied with a state called Brandenburg. And as you can see, they're picking up little bits and pieces along the way until Prussia basically becomes most of northern Germany. In Prussia, the military is number 1. They were known as Sparta of the North, the Spartans from ancient Greece. This is a place that is extremely focused on military affairs. They have the 12th largest population as a state by the mid-18th century, but the 4th largest standing army. Incredible influence on the army and military. 80% of their budget, 80%, 4 out of every $5 is going to go towards strengthening their military. And I don't blame them because, look, you've got enemies to the west, you've got enemies to the north. Sweden is a big deal regionally at this time. You have enemies to the south, you have enemies to the east, you have enemies everywhere. And you basically better, you basically better be strong in Central Europe or you might get swallowed up, aka Poland. So probably the best example of this Prussian power is a king named Frederick William I, an ardent Calvinist, by the way. So think about that. He infuses militarism into all parts of society. I've already mentioned Sparta of the North, 80% of their money there. They also have a very efficient bureaucracy. If you get promoted in his government, it's because you can do the job. It's not because your daddy's important. It's because you can do the job. So promotions are based on merit and commoners. So we're talking middle class. We're talking even a little bit wealthier off peasants can rise in status. So the idea, again, is you're not restricted on the pyramid to where you start. You can rise up, encouraging you to work hard. And we're in a Calvinist state, by the way, Prussia. You work hard here economically. So it's all these things kind of pull together, create an atmosphere in Prussia that encourages strength, discipline, and military power. Now, Austria. Austria today is a very small country in Central Europe, but it wasn't always that way because a good way to think about Austria is that it is the evolved little brother of the Holy Roman Empire. Because the Habsburgs, those that were in power as HREs, they are going to become basically emperors of Austria. So the Habsburg family is going to control Austria, a region we call today Hungary, and other southeast areas. By 1720, they are controlling much of Southeast Asia, or not Asia, Europe. Asia, that's way over there. So basically think about this. As the Ottoman Empire goes down, the Austrian Empire is going to go in, and they're going to be the ones that kind of fulfill that land. But there's a challenge for Austria. It's not a national state, meaning that everyone in their empire doesn't necessarily speak their language. That language is German. There's lots of diversity, racial, ethnic, religious diversity, and therefore it's hard to get total control because if you've got like 20 people in a room and they speak 15 different languages, it's going to be tough to make sure everybody's on the same page. So for Austria, their challenge is that there's a lot of diversity, a lot of different ethnicities in their empire. And who is this lovely man, by the way? Well, it's Leopold I. Look at this guy. Really, I don't know how relevant this slide is. Let me see what we got here. Yeah, he wore a funny hat. He was the one that pushes the Ottoman Empire away. We talked about that. But then this guy, actually, no, Charles VI. He's a Habsburg king. He issues this thing called a pragmatic sanction, which means that he basically orders an edict that says that all the land that the Habsburgs have, all this land which features a lot of diversity, a lot of different ethnicities, it legally cannot be divided. And the reason why he does that is that his heir is his daughter, Maria Theresa. And she's going to rule after him. And he wants to make sure that when he dies, that the different ethnicities in the empire won't be maybe tempted to break out and declare independence from the Austrian Empire because there is a woman on the throne. So he wants to make sure his daughter can take care of business. Fun fact, and we'll see Maria Theresa a little later, but she has a daughter who her name is Marie Antoinette. So some of you know what's coming with her. So that's it. That's the HOPPA Central Europe. Just a few events and things going on with that. Again, 3 crumbling empires, Holy Roman, Ottoman, Poland, and then 2 that are going up, Prussia and Austria.